This is True News, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. America is dangerously close to nuclear war with Russia. You wouldn't know it by watching the behavior of American politicians. Take, for example, Donald J. Trump, the Make America Great Again champion. How will Mr. Trump make America great again? Well, Mr. Trump enthusiastically invited Republican homosexual activists to his Palm Beach, Florida mansion, Mar-a-Lago. Mr. Trump and his homosexual friends partied the night away, celebrating Joe Biden's signing of the newly passed homosexual marriage protection law. In addition to Mr. Trump's gay party, Doc Burkhart and I have a lot of World War III news to pass on to you today. So let's start by looking at a Politico.com article about Mr. Trump's homosexual fest at Mar-a-Lago. Doc, welcome back. Glad to have you back.
Thank you, sir.
I was lonely here yesterday doing this program by myself.
It's weird watching it now with you by yourself, but I was.
Well, it was weird doing it by myself here. You know, I did this program, as a single host for 15 years, and so I've gotten used in the last 7 years of having somebody here alongside me. But glad to have you back.
Good to be back.
You're sounding good again. And
thank you.
So I want to look at this Politico article. Scenes from celebration of the same-sex marriage law. Where are they celebrating, folks?
Mar-a-Lago.
Get a grip on this thing. Where did they celebrate the passage and the signing of the same-sex marriage law? At Donald J. Trump's mansion, Mar-a-Lago. Isn't it time that Christians stop being fooled by Donald J. Trump? You knew he was a snake when you invited him in. Mar-a-Lago. Let's read it, Doc.
Well, hundreds of guests in tuxedos of all styles, sequined, quilted, velvet, and colorful gowns sipped on Trump-branded champagne and martini. That's just the guys. Sipped on Trump-branded champagne and martinis. Between courses of steak and bite-sized key lime pie, they danced to YMCA and Macho Man, the disco anthems at Trump rallies. I'm just trying to imagine that. I've been in Mar-a-Lago and trying to imagine that going on.
It just sounds like a gay trope, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Thursday night's Log Cabin Republican Spirit of Lincoln gala in the main ballroom of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago Beachfront Club was a joyous celebration of gay rights and, in a case of ironic timing, the historic same-sex marriage law signed by President Joe Biden days earlier.
Do you think Abraham Lincoln would have invited to the White House a group of homosexuals?
Of course not.
And yet they'll call it the Spirit of Lincoln.
Right. Well, Donald Trump would say he's done more for homosexuals than any president.
Well, he's telling the truth.
And so
he is telling the truth, Doc.
Right.
He is the most gay, positive, gay supporting, gay affirming president in the history of America. And the Christians of this country, you just need to come to grips with who and what Donald Trump is. And quite frankly, I don't care how many of you get mad at me. I don't care. We're on the verge of World War III. I don't care. I don't care anymore about how many conservative, patriotic, MAGA people get mad at me. We're on the verge of World War III. And our leaders are leading America into Babylon. This country has morphed into Babylon. And just read the book of Jeremiah. Read what happened to Babylon. This is America's fate if this country does not repent. Let's go on with this article.
Well, this long-planned event in honor of the conservative LGBTQ organization's 45th anniversary, I didn't realize they'd been around that long. Right?
Conservative LGBTQ. Right. Doc, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt. Sorry. Conservative LGBTQ.
That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yes.
It should be.
So let me put this real plain. When Christ comes back and all mankind is judged, there will be conservative LGBTQ Republicans burning in the lake of fire with liberal LGBTQ, whatever. Sodomites. They'll all be there together. There will be MAGA Republicans. There will be patriots in the lake of fire, along with the socialists and the Democrats and the communists. You'll all be there together. MAGA patriots and socialist, communist, Democrats. You'll all be there together because you were against Christ. You were a rebel against Christ. What I've seen in this country, there are so many reprobate patriots. Boy, there's a new term.
Patriot reprobates.
Patriot reprobates. Just as lost as the communist Democrats. Just as lost spiritually. But they're conservative. Whoopee. It's not going to do you any good on Judgment Day. You will perish in the lake of fire. I mean, Doc, do you know a week or two ago, I don't remember what day it was, we said something about pornography.
Yes, I believe the middle of last week. So
I don't remember the context what we were talking about. We talked about pornography. I want our audience to know this. We got pushback from TruNews viewers, from men who watch pornography, who told me to mind my own business and to lay off complaining about pornography. These are MAGA Republicans. These are patriots. These are conservatives. These are people watching TruNews. These are people who said, Rick, I'm just as Christian as you are. Get off my back. If I want to watch porn, I can watch it. That's how rebellious these people are. Their consciences are seared. They're watching a Christian program and have no conviction on them whatsoever, and will actually write to a pastor and chastise the pastor for criticizing their their pornography addiction. That's coming from the people who watch this program.
Right. That watch TruNews on a regular basis.
That's when I realized I'm done. I am absolutely done trying to cater to these patriot reprobates who don't want to submit to King Jesus. It's all about submitting to King Jesus. I don't care about your political movements. I don't care about any other thing that you're doing in this country. I want to know one thing. Do you bow your knees before King Jesus? Because if you don't, you're a rebel. You're a lawbreaker. You're outside the kingdom. And you have a gracious offer from the King to come in. But if you continue to reject his offer, he will cast you into the lake of fire.
Yes.
And he will do it. And there are very few preachers left in this country who will look at an audience, look at a congregation, look at a TV camera, and tell them those things because everybody's afraid. Be careful. Don't say something like that. You'll get deplatformed. You'll be disinvited from everything. I'll tell you where I want to be disinvited from. Hell. I want to make sure I'm uninvited in hell. That's the one place you better be disinvited from. But right now there's so many confused people in this country who equate conservatism, patriotism, MAGAism. They could equate it with righteousness. And I'm telling you, Republican does not mean righteous, and Democrat does not mean demon. Your eternal fate is determined by your confession of Jesus Christ, your obedience to Jesus Christ, your submission to Jesus Christ. That's it. And you can't be a porn-watching patriot MAGA supporter and then think that you're fine. Look, I don't want to go down this road, but look, there's a difference in somebody saying, hey, Rick, I've got a porn addiction. I understand that. I'll show compassion. I'll be with you. I'll help you. I'll help you overcome it. But don't come to me and say, I watch porn and God's okay with it. Because, man, I'm telling you, you're deceived. You are absolutely deceived. Satan has deceived you. Don't tell me that Donald Trump is the leader of conservatism in America when he just hosted a homosexual party at his mansion. He's a lying snake. Be done with him. Be done with the man. You think, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to lift a finger to help that man. He did enough to deceive many of us. I think a lot of us just showed him a lot of grace and said, we'll give you a chance to prove yourself. We'll give you a chance to change. We'll give you a chance to grow in the Lord.
And wasn't that the argument of many?
Yes. He's a new Christian. Let's give him a lot of room. He'll clean up his mouth. He'll stop talking dirty. He'll stop chasing women. He'll become a solid Christian man. No, he didn't. He didn't. And he does not deserve the support of Christian America. And neither does Joe Biden. And all the black Christians in this country, all the Christians who voted for Joe Biden, shame on you. Shame on you. All the Catholics who voted for him, shame on you. Look, all of us have to just pull out of these parties and just stop it. They're destroying the country and laughing at the Christians who go along with it. Every 2 years, the Christians fall for the same lies, the same deception.
It's just packaged differently.
It's just packaged, yeah. They've been manipulating the Christians. Well, stop being manipulated. Enough is enough. We're on the verge of World War III, and we're in this mess because of the leaders that we have in this country. They're taking us to destruction. And Donald Trump is one of them. Joe Biden is one of them. Joe Biden's an old senile pervert. I wouldn't allow my granddaughters to be in his presence. But likewise, I wouldn't allow granddaughters over 18 to be in the presence of Donald Trump. The only difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is I think Donald Trump won't touch a child. I think that's the only difference. Trump at least has an age.
An age limit.
Yes, he has an age limit. That's it. But they're both perverts. Donald Trump, close friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and his handler.
Maxwell.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell. When she got arrested, it was reported the first thing Trump said was, "Did she mention my name?" We got a sex cult that runs this country. And Donald Trump just invited part of it to his mansion to celebrate. It's a sex cult. And it's destroyed this country. And I'm telling you right now, I will not in any way support any politician from this day forth who shows any support for sexual perversion in this country. I'm not going to do it. End of discussion. I'll sit out the elections. What's the point? What's the point in voting for these people?
Right. You're either voting for Baal or Moloch. One of the two, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Which one of the foreign deities are we going to vote for?
Yeah, well, better get back here to Where did we leave off here?
We're only at number 4.
You started, and I interrupted you at number 4.
So the long-planned event in honor of the conservative LGBTQ organization's 45th anniversary brought in Republican notables like former Ambassador Rick Grinnell, Representative Kat Cammack of Florida, former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus, who emceed the evening in a feathered turquoise gown, and former GOP gubernatorial candidate from Arizona, Kari Lake, who was swarmed by guests eager to meet her and take a photo.
So Kari Lake is in this pro-homosexual movement too?
She sure is, yes.
Well, scratch her off the list.
So the main attraction, obviously, was Mr. Trump. He received a standing ovation, Rick, after delivering an enthusiastic affirmation of gay rights not often heard in the GOP. Throughout the evening, speakers praised Trump for his embrace of the great gay community. They credited him for his initiatives to combat the criminalization of homosexuality, his work pushing for public health initiatives to combat the HIV epidemic, and for appointing the first openly gay cabinet member, Grinnell, as the Director of National Intelligence.
Look at that. Standing ovation for his enthusiastic affirmation of gay rights.
Yes. Well, no less than the Los Angeles Blade, in cooperation with the other Blade publications around the country, Trump addresses log cabin Republicans at Mar-a-Lago gala. Now, the Blade publication is very much a homosexual publication, okay? Former President Donald Trump addressed an audience gathered at his Mar-a-Lago club and estate in Palm Beach Thursday night for the Log Cabin Republican Spirit of Lincoln Gala. We are fighting for the gay community, and we are fighting hard, Trump said.
What did Donald Trump say?
We are fighting for the gay community. We are fighting hard.
Yeah, Donald Trump didn't say, we are fighting for Jesus Christ.
No.
He didn't say it, did he? So let's get real about Donald Trump. Let's just get real about him. And let's stop pretending. All this evangelical deception that Donald Trump is a secret Christian.
Right.
Oh, he's so secret.
And that he's being influenced by this circle of evangelical leaders that are, influencing him and praying with him and laying hands on him and anointing him. Last night, we had over 450 LGBTQ conservatives and our straight allies joining us, for another amazing Spirit of Lincoln Gala. And that was released by Log Cabin Republicans President Charles Moran, speaking to the Washington Blade. Excuse me.
Yeah, so he goes on to say, this is Mr. Moran speaking, while the speakers and award honorees span the conservative spectrum, all of them, including President Trump, articulated a deep appreciation for our community and committed to our broader inclusion and support for gay rights, Moran said. Now listen to this. This is the bar
Yes.
we'll be holding all GOP candidates to in 2023 and 2024.
You hear that?
Every Republican candidate will be expected to sign on to the homosexual agenda. It's time to walk out of the Republican Party. It's time to walk out of the Democratic Party. It is time that Christians become the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We'll go on to Twitter. Elon Musk. The government paid Twitter, the company he bought,
Yes.
millions of dollars to censor information from the public. You want to think about that for a moment, folks? Elon Musk, richest man in the world, who paid $44 billion for Twitter, now that he has seen the books, he's seen the financial records of the company he bought. He said the U.S. government paid Twitter millions of dollars to censor you and me.
So
there's money in censorship.
I paid my taxes so I could get banned. Mm-hmm. Is that the way it works?
So the FBI could pressure Twitter to silence your voice.
Now, they're saying that LifeSite News, at least, is reporting that that number is somewhere around the $3 million mark.
About $3 million.
That's what's been declared so far.
Yes, because they've got an email. They've got an email from an FBI agent that mentions the $3 million. And what they were doing is that they were reimbursing, the FBI was reimbursing Twitter for the man hours that Twitter employees were spending censoring people at the behest of the FBI.
What a gig. Wow. It's incredible.
Elon Musk also asked Adam Schiff about government censorship.
Yeah, he asked this question of Representative Adam Schiff. He said, as outgoing chair of House Intelligence, did you approve hidden state censorship in direct violation of the Constitution of the United States? And so Mr. Schiff hasn't answered yet, but I suspect that he would be enthusiastic about it, that it's right there in the Constitution, just like other rights are, like abortion and gay rights and other things that are mysteriously, secretly hidden in the Constitution. You just have to have special glasses to see it. So,
you know, one thing that Kevin McCarthy could do if he becomes Speaker of the House, or whoever becomes Speaker of the House in a few weeks, is the Speaker has jurisdiction over offices, physical offices in the House.
I never thought about that, but I guess they do.
Oh, you better be friends with the Speaker, because there are big offices and there are small offices.
And then there's offices across the street.
And there's there's one office that's the tiniest office in the entire House of Representatives. If I were Kevin McCarthy, that's where I would put Adam Schiff. He would be in that office. Okay.
Well, let's see what Kevin McCarthy does.
I'm not going to hold my breath. So. I'm not going to hold my breath on it. The Korea Herald, I found this today in the Korea Herald. Seoul is searching for China's secret police station in South Korea.
Now, stories about these secret police stations are popping up here in the U.S. and Canada, other places. Now, South Korea's got this story. The South Korean government is looking into alleged operations of China's undeclared overseas police service center, following revelations by an international human rights group that Beijing has been operating more than 100 entities to suppress dissidents around the world. Now, according to Yonhap, the military, police, counter-espionage organizations, and related government ministries, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have all been mobilized to check whether any of such Chinese police stations exist here, that being Seoul. The South Korean Foreign Ministry officials said in a briefing Tuesday there is nothing special to announce yet. The Chinese embassy in Seoul told the Korea Herald that there is nothing further to add to Beijing's stance on the issue.
So you got the South Korean government searching the country for secret Chinese police stations in the country.
Right.
Now, we have Chinese police stations in America.
We do.
And the FBI director, Christopher Wray, says he's concerned.
They have them in Canada,
He's
too.
He's concerned, Doc. He's concerned.
But is he going to do anything
He's
about it?
He's concerned. The FBI director is concerned about Chinese police stations in America. Mr. Wray, how did the Chinese police get here in the first place? You weren't doing your job. That's your job. Federal Bureau. No, you were making sure conservatives were deplatformed at Twitter. You want to find the secret location of the Chinese police department in America? Just go to the FBI headquarters.
Yeah, it's in the filing cabinet right next to all the laptops.
No, the FBI headquarters, Doc. The FBI headquarters. The FBI runs, the Chinese, I believe, run the FBI. I honestly believe it. I believe the Chinese run the FBI. Does the FBI act like an American organization or a Chinese organization?
Chinese organization.
Then if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Pretty ducky, so.
Yeah, okay. So why don't we just come to reality today? Donald Trump supports homosexuality. The FBI is run by the Chinese. Why don't we just deal with reality? Instead of continuing to deceive ourselves, let's just come to a place where we accept reality. The Chinese have taken over our country. They're infiltrated into everything. And we have people we have Americans in high positions who are Chinese agents. They're censoring people. They're changing our culture. They're changing our laws. They're changing our values. We've been taken over from within. But we can't deal with it because we don't know how to fight an internal enemy.
Right.
We only know how to fight external enemies. We don't know how to fight an internal enemy. Right?
Some pretty good insight there.
Okay.
Hadn't really considered that before.
We've been invaded from within. It's our minds that have been captured. They don't have to capture our bodies. They just capture your mind. The war has been fought through propaganda, psychological operations. And they've been very effective. They've changed the culture of America. They've changed the thinking of the people. They've changed their values. They've changed them from being a moral people to an immoral people. And it was all done quietly through propaganda, entertainment, education. And here we are today, and we've imploded as a country. You still got conservatives talking about, America's going to fall someday. No, America already fell.
Yes.
We already fell. Don't you understand that? We already fell. We've already imploded. The country imploded. We're living in a post-constitutional era. We're just living on vapors of the old America. That's all this is right now, vapors. The old country's gone. They have moved us into a post-constitutional republic.
Wow.
And it was done through propaganda, psychological warfare operations on the American people, and it was carried out by the U.S. government because it was taken over by the Chinese. Is Joe Biden a Chinese agent or not? Yes or no?
I believe he is.
Well, then the Chinese have the White House, don't they?
Yeah, they've had the White House.
Yeah.
They don't have to control him. They can just let him do whatever.
You can go back to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton worked for the Chinese. Bill Clinton would sit up like a little dog and do tricks for the Chinese.
Yeah, China wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't
for the Clintons. This has been going on for decades. Henry Kissinger worked with the Chinese. Greenspan.
Big time. Basically set up their economic system.
That's right. The buyout has been underway for a long time. They sold us out. Our own leaders sold us out. Because people like Greenspan, in his view, he lived a good life. He became rich and famous. He played his role in moving American factories to China, putting Americans out of work. Now he's old, he's going to die. What's he care? What does he care? He's leaving the world. It's somebody else's problem. That's the way these guys have operated. They're going to take the payoff, and they're either figuring they're going to live out their life and nobody will catch them, or they'll have a seat at the table with the Chinese, and they don't understand that the Chinese will kill them.
Right.
They don't need them. They'll put a bayonet in their gut. They don't need them. Who wants to go in partnership with a traitor? If you committed treason against your own country, do you want to be in business with a person?
Of course not.
Of course. And that's the way the communists will treat these people, these traitors in America. These traitors think that they're going to get a seat at the table. What they're going to get is a coffin. Because the Chinese don't need them.
Or a trip to a crematorium.
When they get enough power in the country, they don't need them anymore. And let's not forget Mr. Trump, the Bank of China, had their first office in the Trump building in New York City.
And let's not forget Jared and Ivanka were in business in bed with the Chinese.
Selling U.S. citizenship in China.
Having big, giant seminars all about it. So,
and a lot of the money for Truth Social came from China.
yeah.
Okay. It's bipartisan, folks. All right, Republicans and Democrats, they're sold out to China. While we're talking about China, okay, I'm going to give you a heads up. Get ready. It appears that they're about to hit us with another wave of COVID propaganda. I'd see a lockdown coming. When you listen to these next couple articles,
Right.
they're getting ready. Here's Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. See if
Look at here, Doc. Look at this. This is like 2020
Yes.
all over again.
It's like February and March of 2020.
They're just bringing out the old images, the previous propaganda that they used in 2020, and we're going to recycle it in 23.
It worked so good then. So
Beijing crematorium death surge points to rising COVID toll in China. Oh, we're supposed to bite our nails and be afraid. The crematoriums, Doc, are running over.
remember back in 2020, they were showing satellite images.
Yes, of the smoke coming out. The smoke coming out of the crematoriums.
Right. So
that propaganda is not going to work here this time.
oh, it'll work a little bit. It'll scare some people.
Well, yeah, somebody. Not going to work here. We went months in 2020 until we said, something's not right here. This is fake. This stuff is fake. And at that point, about midway into 2020, we started saying, this is all propaganda.
Right.
So let's read what the Wall Street Journal is telling us.
So one of Beijing's designated crematoria for COVID-19 patients has been flooded with dead bodies in recent days as the virus sweeps through the Chinese capital, offering an early hint at the human cost of the country's abrupt loosening of pandemic restrictions. So you see the argument they're making there.
Yeah.
We gave people freedom, and look what's happening.
All right, so the people rioted several weeks ago.
Right.
Remember when all the Chinese people were rioting over the restrictions? So you got it, Doc. Your analysis is perfect on this. So that the propaganda line is, we listened to the people. We had a zero tolerance for COVID, but the people rose up against the government. So we changed the policy, and within days, the crematoriums are flooded with
Right.
dead bodies.
People are dying from COVID-19 left and right.
In days.
Yes.
All because those people didn't want to be locked down.
That's how dangerous freedom is. Beijing's Dongjiao crematory on the eastern edge of the Chinese capital has experienced a jump in requests for cremation and other funerary services, according to people who work at the compound. Since the COVID reopening, we've been overloaded with work, said a woman who answered the phone at the crematorium on Friday. Right now, it's 24 hours a day. We can't keep up, Rick.
In less than 2 weeks.
That's right. So, now the woman said that Dongjiao Crematory, which is operated by Beijing municipality, and which the National Health Commission has designated to handle COVID-positive cases, Rick was receiving so many bodies that it was conducting cremations in the pre-dawn hours and in the middle of the night.
And they got overtime. Just think, if you worked here, you got overtime.
Imagine if you weren't communist, you'd have overtime. All right, so there's no other way, she said. She estimated that there were roughly 200 bodies arriving each day at the crematorium, from 30 or 40 bodies on a typical day. The increased workload has taxed the crematorium staff, many of whom have become infected with the fast-spreading virus in recent days, she said. Now, men who work at the compound, which in addition to a funeral hall includes a small complex of shops selling burial attire, flowers, caskets, urns, and other funerary items, said the number of corpses had risen markedly in recent days, though none would offer an estimate of the magnitude of the increase. So now there's two ways I can look at this story, Rick. Either this is all just strictly propaganda, those numbers are just being made up, pulled out of thin air, or there's actually three possibilities. The other one is there's genuine COVID cases coming in. Okay, there's that possibility. A third possibility is, Rick, I say you have COVID, and you're going to die of it. Mm-hmm. That might also explain the increase in the number of bodies.
Yes, you get rid of political dissidents.
Right.
Oh, so you were protesting against the lockdowns.
Guess
Looks
what?
like you need to go to the crematorium.
You've got COVID.
This is a really good point, Doc. They rounded up all the protesters, and now they're dying.
Yes. And you'll never know. You'll never know they had COVID.
I have no idea.
You'll never know because
they're using facial recognition software to recognize the people who were on the streets protesting. And now they've rounded them up. And suddenly there's a surge in deaths.
You know, there was a video circulating on social media here a couple of weeks ago that had a whole bunch of people that were protesting at a bus station, and their apps, their COVID apps, mm-hmm. went from green to red, a whole crowd. Mm-hmm. So suddenly, you know, if you've got a COVID app and it's red, in China, I guess that's bad, that means as far as the state or anyone that comes in contact with you is concerned, you're COVID positive. And guess what? That could be a death sentence for you, even if you don't have COVID. And how's anyone going to challenge you?
You're picked up by the police.
Because you have COVID now.
The police tell the relatives and the neighbors, he's infected. We're taking him to an isolation center. The isolation center happens to be a crematorium.
Right.
Where you'll be isolated forever. That's a really good point, Doc.
Yeah.
That's the way communism works. You know, when you allow people to censor freedom, this is the path you go on. So 1.4 billion people in China are controlled by a couple million communists.
I don't even know if it's a couple million communists. It's probably a much smaller number.
Might be 100,000.
Right.
But they have the technology.
Right.
See, technology in the hands of tyrants can enslave a billion people, especially if they get in your mind. And that's what they excel at doing, Doc. Getting in your mind, controlling your mind. We saw it in America in 2020 and 2021. We saw people, Americans, become zombies and do exactly what the government and the news media told them to do. Become snitches on their own families, their neighbors and coworkers. Become irate, nasty at people who didn't follow the orders, the commands. They got into the minds of the American people and they flipped them. I didn't think we'd ever see anything like that in America. That Americans would that quickly, on a mass scale, just flip from pro-freedom to pro-tyranny.
That's how powerful fear is. That's the weapon they use. Fear is the weapon they use. And we got this article out of DW, out of Germany. China's soaring COVID numbers raise global fears. So they're throwing the word fear out there again. China is scrambling to deal with a surge in coronavirus cases after Beijing's retreat from a zero COVID policy. With much of the population unvaccinated, there are fears of mutations, high fatalities, and economic upset. Most of the population unvaccinated, Rick. This is China we're talking about, right? And they're
most of them's unvaccinated?
That's what DW is saying. Chinese cities on Tuesday pushed ahead with plans to expand hospital bed capacity and build new clinics amid fears about the virus running wild through the population. Beijing's abrupt decision to relax stringent COVID-19 measures has raised fears that widespread infections among a largely unvaccinated population could lead to between 1 million and 2.1 million deaths. Authorities are expanding intensive care units and with a view to stopping the spread of the disease in hospitals, building fever screening clinics.
Well, Doc, I think you got it. I think you figured this out. They're going to purge the Chinese population by 1 to 2 million people.
I think easily they could.
Who were pro-freedom. People who said, I've had enough of this communist tyranny. They're going to purge the country. They're going to kill 2 million people.
Because there's a virus more powerful than COVID, and that's freedom. And they've got to, that's what they really have to eliminate.
They have to inoculate the population against the spread of freedom.
Now, listen to how scary they're making this. After the easing of COVID-19 restrictions, China is experiencing a massive surge in coronavirus cases. Hospitals are completely overwhelmed in China, reported Eric Fagelding, a epidemiologist and health economist. The epidemiologist estimates, listen to these numbers, that more than 60% of China and 10% of the Earth's population are likely to be infected over the next 90 days.
Here we go.
With deaths likely in the millions.
Here we go, folks. Here we go. They're about to do it again. They're about to do it again, Doc. You can count on all of the Faucis, the little elves, the little imps. You can count on all the Faucis, all the Justin Trudeaus, the Joe Bidens, all of them. They're going to fall in line with the propaganda. You know what they want to roll out? What they plan to roll out in 2023 is a global vaccine passport.
Yes.
Global. That was decided at the G20 meeting.
That's right. And
a global vaccine passport. They need a big scare at the beginning of 23.
In order to get every country on board with this. Now, NDTV, look at this headline here. Thermonuclear bad. Expert says 60% of China may get infected in the next 3 months. This is a report out of India here. There's some video we're going to show you here. This is, once again, the fear videos that they, reminiscent of 2020 all over again here. Hospitals and clinics packed with COVID patients. And once again, do they really have COVID? Do they really have COVID? We just don't know, do we?
Or are they actors? Propaganda is propaganda. You order people to go lay in a hospital bed and then you record 20 seconds of video.
Right.
It's propaganda.
The real problem is if China pulls off this freedom virus purge, there are other nations around the world that are going to be looking in as well and saying, you know what, if China can do it, we can do it too. We can get rid of all these pesky people that aren't falling in line, aren't going along with the rules that we put in place. We'll just make sure they have COVID too. They don't think it couldn't happen.
No, we could see a global purge of the human race. I mean, it's already underway with the vaccines. You see so many people. I see reports every day of people dying. You know, I scan so many news articles, news sites. You just see the reports, and you're only seeing the celebrities,
right?
People that are famous enough to get their deaths get reported. But it's every day, every part of the world. People in their 20s and 30s and 40s suddenly dying, dropping over, but we warned last year. I said 2022 would be the year of funerals, the year of death. And it's happened. And yet few people connect it to the fake vaccines that were administered to people. And Doc, I talked to people that have had deaths in their general family, and I'm talking about people that know about the vaccines, and they'll tell me about a cousin or aunt or uncle, somebody got vaccinated and died. And I said, well, the rest of your family, they recognize, they connected us? Oh no, don't go there. You can't bring it up. Just
can't bring it up.
Can't bring up the discussion in the family.
Uncle Earl dies and you can't bring up why he died?
No, you can't. What I've heard over and over and over, don't bring up vaccine. Relatives don't want to hear it.
And the reason why they don't want to hear it is because they got vaccinated.
Because they got vaccinated too. And they don't want to deal with the reality of it. Here's another one. This is from Indy. Did we show this one?
We showed this one already.
Okay. I'm sorry. Now, let's go. While we're talking about madness, Doc, I saw this. last night, looking at the London Times. No, not this one. This was, I want to go to number, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm misreading. So I'll get to the one I'm talking about. So here's the London Times. U.S.-made missiles shot down over Russian territory. And the Times said, Moscow said yesterday it had shot down American missiles over Russian territory as President Putin visited Belarus for talks that fueled fears. He is pressuring his closest ally to enter the war in Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry said it had destroyed 4 U.S.-made HARM anti-radar missiles over the Belgorod region, which borders Ukraine. It gave no details. The Pentagon has not confirmed the report. The Russian Foreign Ministry said last week that the U.S. had effectively become a party to the war by supplying Ukraine with weapons and training. Now, the next story is, I saw this morning, and I thought this might be a bigger story than it became. A deadly blast destroys Russia-Ukraine gas pipeline.
Right. Yeah, I saw this story earlier today as well, and thought, all right, this is where it's all going to start. But a gas pipeline in central Russia that brings gas from Russia's Arctic through Ukraine to Europe has been shut following a huge blast that ripped through and left 3 people dead and 1 injured. Reuters cited local officials in TASS as reporting.
Hey, let's bypass the rest of this, because what the Russians are saying, it's under control, and they had a way to bypass the part of the pipeline that was exploded.
Right.
So the Russians seem to be downplaying this. They've tried not to make this a big story, but anytime you hear about a pipeline exploding right now, you have to wonder whether it was sabotage.
What I find interesting about it, though, it's still an active pipeline that's running through Ukraine.
Through Ukraine, yes.
Russia hasn't shut it down, and the Ukrainians haven't blown it up.
No, because the Ukrainians siphon off gas.
That's right.
Why would they blow it up when they're stealing gas from it? Next story is Bloomberg. Exxon is avoiding tankers that previously transported Russian oil. This is because of the U.S. sanctions on Russian oil. So Exxon is not doing business with any tanker that in the past did business with Russia. Next one, this is France will continue to deliver weapons to Ukraine in 2023, says Emmanuel Macron. Now, he appeared on television in France. He was aboard the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier. And France 24 reported that France has delivered more air defense missile systems and other weapons to Ukraine and will send more early next year. Macron said, in recent days, France has sent Ukraine more arms, rocket launchers, air defense batteries, equipment beyond what we had already done. Macron was speaking aboard the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier off the coast of Egypt before visiting Jordan for a summit. He said, we're also working with the Armed Forces Minister of France to be able to deliver useful arms and ammunition again in the first quarter of 2023 so that the Ukrainians would be able to defend themselves against bombardments.
So I guess they're going all in, all the way until at least spring of next year. We know for sure then, Rick, which means that they're a target for Russia.
Yes. Now, here's the story that I started to bring up. This is an op-ed in the London Times. Ukraine must be given long-range missiles. Who wrote such an outrageously insane op-ed? Well, it was William Hague. And he's the former leader of the Tory party, former foreign secretary of the British government. It's been around for many, many years. And I used to like this guy a lot until I finally came to a place of realizing that these conservatives were warmongers.
Yes. They weren't conservative about war, were
no,
they? They were quite
liberal. They're very liberal about war. They like war. Well, and they're all part of that CFR, Chatham House, secret society that runs the West. And so, Mr. Haig, this is what we're just going to read a couple paragraphs from his op-ed in the Times of London, owned by Rupert Murdoch, owner of Fox News.
Right.
So the Murdochs had to approve this, Doc. You just don't, you just can't write a letter to the editor of the Times and it gets printed in the London Times.
Somebody greenlights
it. The Murdoch family approved this editorial. Let's read it.
So, it is time for Western countries to supply ATACMS missiles with a range of 190 miles, enabling Ukraine to hit Russian bases throughout occupied territory, including Crimea. Such long-range missiles are possessed by several countries, not just the United States, and can be fired from rocket launchers already in use. Now, he says these could make a material difference to the course of the war, disrupting any planned new Russian offensive and demonstrating that there is a cost to Putin's escalation. This should be part of a wider effort to upgrade Ukrainian capabilities with aircraft and the tanks they have long been promised. And vitally, Ukraine needs a huge supply of more basic items, including ammunition, infantry fighting vehicles, and howitzers, to give them their own staying power against Russian industrial production. Well, Mr. Haig, that's all well and good, but you've got the Europeans that are running out of ammunition, military equipment, the ability to defend their own countries. But where's this all going to come from?
Well, he's pressuring the new Prime Minister of Great Britain. Mm-hmm. Is it Sunak?
Yes.
He's pressuring him to send these long-range missiles to Ukraine. You're making Great Britain a target for Russian nuclear warheads.
And notice how you frame that first paragraph. Well, they're only going to be used in Russian-occupied territories, maybe Crimea. But if the Ukrainians have the missiles to go 200 miles, where do you think they're going to shoot missiles? They're not going to shoot it in Russian-occupied. They're going to shoot it in Russia. And they know that. They all know that, too.
Another story in the Times. Where is Putin? Russian leader may be plotting Noah's Ark escape. Doc, the propaganda. I wish I'd kept a collection of the propaganda stories this year of all the things.
Do a countdown at the end of the year.
Yes. So now Putin has a Noah's Ark waiting for him. This is the London Times. They put this stuff out. Okay. So if you read the article, they're hinting that he's going to flee to Venezuela.
Right. Via Havana and all that.
Yes.
So
that at any moment he's going to board a secret vessel and be transported to Venezuela.
So in a ranking of, the more incredible, would the supposed poisoning of Putin earlier this year be a bigger story than this one? Or would you rank them about the same?
Oh, yeah.
There have been so many fables this year.
Yes.
And so
this one's the most ridiculous one. The secret Noah's Ark that's going to ferry him away to Venezuela. And it says that's where all the Nazis go. But Putin's killing the Nazis.
So if he's going to Venezuela, it would be to kill Nazis.
It would be, yes, he'd be looking for Nazis. All right, I want to switch. We've got a few minutes. I want to go to some more World War III news. You remember yesterday I told you about the story out of Pakistan, where the leader of the Pakistan opposition party, I think it was the opposition, or maybe it was the majority, but ruling party, I think, told the Indian government, hey, we have atomic bombs, and they're not going to be silent. We're going to let them speak.
Yes. Pakistan.
Okay. We're going to get in this insanity too. We're going to blow up India.
Right. India and Pakistan is that hidden story. It's sort of like the burning coals underneath the fire down deep there. Yeah. It's always smoldering and could catch fire at any minute, but no one sees it. There's no smoke from it or anything. But one day, suddenly it could burst into flames.
But both countries have nukes.
That's right. That's what I mean. And there's really no other country that's involved that can provide any regulation to that either.
No, not at all. All right, so we'll go to Yonhap News, South Korea. South Korea and the United States staged combined air drills involving America's B-52H bombers and F-22 fighters. Well, then I want to go on to number 47, London Times. North Korea accuses Japan Oh, I did a double take on this one, Doc.
This is a great story.
London Times. North Korea accuses Japan of planning an invasion. All right, I had to read this one.
So, North Korea has accused Japan of planning an invasion after Tokyo moved to boost defense spending in the face of regional tensions and provocative missile tests by Kim Jong-un's regime. Now, the country's state media reported the foreign ministry as saying that Tokyo had caused a security crisis on the Korean peninsula and in East Asia with a new security strategy formulating the possession of the capability for preemptive attack on other countries. The Korean Central News Agency quoted the unnamed official as saying, "The foolish act of Japan seeking to gratify its black-hearted intention, arms buildup for reinvasion under the pretext of the DPRK's legitimate exercise of the right to self-defense can never be justified and tolerated." And so there's a lot of this rhetoric that's going on. Rick, there's a long-running beef between Korea and Japan. It actually goes back centuries. Mm-hmm. It really does. And even in South Korea today, there's more of a gentleman's agreement between the two countries to just get along with each other mm-hmm. because of some of the atrocities the Japanese perpetrated back in World War II. Mm-hmm. But as patient as the South Koreans have been, North Koreans, they hate the Japanese, mm-hmm. hate them.
But the Chinese hate the Japanese too.
Yes, so.
There's a deep hatred among them.
And the only reason why Japan exists to this day is because of American protection.
So we're protecting the country that bombed us in World War II.
That's right.
Okay, I'm just trying to follow this logic, the way we do this. Okay, so what happened is that North Korea is angry that Japan is transitioning from being a pacifist nation. They're going back to being a warlike nation, and they're developing a new defense posture, a new defense policy for the country, and that policy calls for the Japanese government. They say they don't have a military, but they do have a military.
Right.
Because Japan is still operating under the Constitution that MacArthur wrote for them.
That's right.
Okay, so they can't say that they have a military even though they have guys in uniform with guns. So Japan is changing its policy to say if North Korea fires any missiles towards us, we're going to strike North Korea. Well, what are you going to strike them with? You got something we don't know about? Has anybody thought about that?
They're counting on the U.S. to provide.
Or you said we're going to give them missiles. I mean, they have to have something to fire off to hit North Korea. So this is the context of why North Korea this week accused Japan of planning to invade North Korea. So I've got a video clip from a South Korean television channel. Doc, how do they pronounce this?
Arirang.
Arirang?
Yes.
Okay. Arirang News. Mm-hmm. And it's that North Korea warns of actual action against Japan's new policy. Let's watch it.
North Korea has condemned Japan for the revision to its pacifist defense policy last week aimed at acquiring missile systems that would give Japan counterstrike capabilities and allow it to hit targets in other territories, including North Korea and China. The North's foreign ministry, in a statement Tuesday, said Japan had formalized what it called a preemptive invasion-focused policy that it said creates a grave security climate in East Asia and fundamentally changes conditions in the region. In response to what it called Japan's unjust and excessive ambition, the regime said it has the right to take resolute and decisive military action. The North also claimed Japan's shift in policy was instigated by the United States.
Now, this next story is from a Japanese newspaper, Asahi Shimbun. It says North Korea and Taiwan cited as scenarios for Japan's new strike capability.
Now, this is interesting here that a South Korean newspaper and Japanese outlets would publish this. Government officials envisage two particular scenarios that might, excuse me, require the use of new capabilities to strike enemy bases preparing to attack Japan. The primary weapon would be a long-range missile with a range in excess of 1,000 kilometers. Now, according to sources, one scenario would involve North Korea if it was found to be preparing a ballistic missile launch against Japan. Now, that's a very real possibility, right, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Japan, under the law, would be able to target the missile site if Japanese defense satellites picked up signs that North Korea was in the process of fueling ballistic missiles for aggressive action against Japan. A North Korean naval vessel preparing to launch missiles against Japan would also be a potential target, even if the ship was still in North Korean territorial waters. If Pyongyang had already launched a ballistic missile, Japan would not only try to intercept it, but also launch an attack on the base involved. Now, this is regarding the change in policy that they're talking about here. Now, what's interesting here is the second major scenario. The second major scenario that could come into play is if a nation with close ties to Japan comes under attack, and the result presents a clear danger to Japan. A spate of missiles launched by North Korea earlier this year included one in November, whose range included the U.S. mainland. Now, if North Korea is preparing to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile against the U.S., or has already fired one, and the decision is made that Japan could also come under a subsequent attack, Japan would be allowed to launch strikes against North Korean bases. Now, use of the strike capability would also be possible if Taiwan came under military attack. If China does attack Taiwan, Japan would ratchet up its surveillance against a possible invasion of its islands around Okinawa that are close to Taiwan.
Japan just decided to get into World War III.
Right. And there's been talks here recently about Japan joining the AUKUS group. Mm-hmm. You know, the Australian, US, yes. UK group that's kind of formed in the South Pacific there. And so, but that would mean a change in the law in Japan. They'd have to actually change the constitution in Japan in order for that to happen. But the ball seems to be rolling in that direction now.
Well, one thing that came to my mind is that, you know, over, I don't know, the last 5-7 years, maybe longer, North Korea has fired missiles that have either landed really close to Japan or actually flown over Japan.
Right.
Under this policy, Japan would interpret that as an attack. How do you know that the missile is not going to strike your country? You see it lift off. You see that the trajectory is straight towards Japan. And you're going to wait to see if it goes over the country or if it lands a few miles off the coast? No, that policy is going to be, we're launching an attack. That's what's different about this. But they have to get the missiles.
Right.
But, you know, somewhere in America, there's a defense contractor with missiles for sale.
That's right. Somebody will sell it to them.
Somebody's got it.
Now, we have this article from the Korean Times, and in this article here, you're going to see that underlying rivalry between even South Korea and Japan in this story.
Oh, wait, between South Korea?
Yes. So the headline Korean Times is this: Korea needs preemptive measures against Japan's new security strategy.
But that's not North Korea.
That's not North Korea. That's South Korea needs preemptive measures. What do you mean they need preemptive measures against Japan? Well, the South Korean government is advised to explore ways with the United States to stop Japan from deciding on its own to carry out an attack against North Korea, an act that could infringe on the South's sovereignty. Now, in order to understand what they mean by this, South Korea still looks at North Korea as Korea, okay? And as strange as it sounds, Rick, an attack on North Korea is an attack on Korea, South Korea. And so basically they're saying to Japan, before you can attack North Korea, you're going to really need our permission. The Japanese government unveiled a new national security strategy last week, and the development of counter-strike capabilities, one of 3 updates, has emerged as a hot-button issue in South Korea, as it allows Tokyo to strike at missile launch sites within North Korea in the event of an emergency. Now, the South Korean government claims that the exercise of such an action definitely requires Seoul's consent, because North Korea is part of the Korean Peninsula, which the South Korean Constitution defines as part of South Korea's territory, while also having a significant impact on security on the peninsula and the South's national interests. It's complicated. South Korea is our ally, Japan's our ally, and so one ally is asking, hey, help us to defend ourselves against your other friend over here. So there's that underlying tension, as I explained earlier. South Koreans, they put up with Japan. North Koreans really hate Japan, but there's still a lot of tension between the two.
But if Japan thinks it's going to be attacked by North Korea, or if it has been attacked, they're not going to wait on the South Koreans to have a committee meeting.
No, but neither are the South Koreans going to wait if they see missiles flying from Japan over to the Korean Peninsula. Neither are the South Koreans going to wait.
Well, what are they going to do?
They'll fire missiles too.
To who? To where?
To Japan.
To Japan?
Yes.
South Korea would attack Japan?
They would.
If Japan attacks North Korea?
Yes, because they look at North Korea as part of, their country. According to the Constitution of South Korea, North Korea, the whole Korean Peninsula is Korea. It doesn't matter if there's an imaginary line that's drawn through the woods and everything. And so an attack by a foreign power is an attack, basically, if it was on North Korea.
Just suddenly the South Koreans join up with the North Koreans.
I know it sounds weird, but...
Oh, why not?
So a Japanese government official told reporters Friday its exercise of counterstrike capability does not require approval from other nations, as it's a self-defense measure. That's their perspective. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida plans to visit Washington next month to discuss its military buildup with Mr. Biden, according to Japanese media outlets. The updated national security documents stipulate that Japan needs counterstrike capabilities, which, in the case of missile attacks by an opponent, enable the country to mount effective counterstrikes against the opponent to prevent further attacks while defending against incoming missiles by means of the Missile Defense Network. Part of it, Rick, too, is Japan, there's such a hatred for Japan that they don't want Japan to have any kind of military capability, even a shadow of it, what it had, in the middle of the 20th century. So there's that, I don't know how to describe it, there's this fear. They're still debating over comfort women in South Korea. Reparations, and as tragic as that was, it was genuinely tragic, I'm not dismissing it. But how many years is this? This is 80 years.
80 years, yeah.
80 years, and as tragic as basically the Japanese use South Korean women as prostitutes. But they have paid reparations over and over and over again, and it's never enough. And so I'm not defending what Japan did, but every time that they've agreed to reparations and they've paid the reparations, there's a whole bunch of people that get upset and angry again, and then 5 years later they're doing it again.
Well, wouldn't you? They're giving you money.
Well, that's the idea.
I mean, they're going to milk that cow. A couple more before we close it up here. So North Korea tested an ICBM. They're going to launch a spy satellite. So think about that. They're going to have their own spy satellite up there in space watching everybody. But anyhow, some comments were made by various Western military analysts and media personnel that were derogatory comments about North Korean technology.
Right.
And that got the North Koreans very offended and worked up. And so NHK TV in Japan had this story. Kim Jong-un's sister defends North Korean ICBM technology, and she said, we're going to shoot one, and it's going to go in the line we want it to go, and you're going to see it how it works. So I've got two video reports. The first one is from NHK TV in Tokyo.
South Korea has cast doubt on the North's missile capabilities and questioned its satellite program. The sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un dismissed the reports as nonsense and slander. North Korea claims its Sunday rocket launches were a key final stage test for the development of a reconnaissance satellite. A South Korean expert said it was actually a cover for Pyongyang's long-range missile technology. Kim Yo-jong lashed out against that assertion. Her statement went on to say South Korean experts are disparaging the North's missile technology to comfort themselves. She added that the South will see and understand Pyongyang's intercontinental ballistic missile technology.
What do you think that means?
I think they plan on testing the technology out even further now, just to prove the South and the West wrong.
Test it or use it. Oh, we got one more video on the same story. Let's watch.
Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, issued a statement criticizing those who question the secretive regime's assertion of having made significant progress in its satellite and long-range ballistic missile development. Kim took issue with a view among experts in the outside world, including those in South Korea, that low-resolution, black-and-white images of Seoul and Incheon, released by Pyongyang the previous day, are too crude to be satellite photos. Kim said it's inappropriate and hasty to assess the North's satellite development capabilities and relevant preparations with the two photos alone.
You know, we're showing you this because, you know, over here in the West, we don't think about, you know, most Americans don't think about North Korea.
No.
But you should, because there's some insanity there in that family. And they have nukes. And they get offended easily. And when you offend a mentally unstable person who has a nuke, he could use it just to prove that he can do it. And I have long believed, Doc, North Korea is going to carry out a surprise attack on an American city. They don't have the ability to take out America, but they do have the ability to take out San Francisco.
Or L.A.
Or L.A.
And create chaos.
Or Vandenberg.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, there would be chaos. So pay attention. It's just there's insanity in the air. William Hague wants Britain to give long-range missiles to Ukraine. North Korea, you know, is promising to demonstrate their ICBM technology. Japan is talking about invading North Korea if they're attacked. I mean, it's all over the world. Right. Pakistan and India, you know, trading nuclear insults. I mean, this is madness. And the person behind the madness, the entity, is Lucifer.
Yes.
It's Lucifer. He's driving these world leaders to do insane things. Look, Hitler was insane. He was absolutely insane, but he was filled with demons. He was brilliant and insane at the same time, and filled with demons. And tens of millions of people died because of World War II. So Satan wants another world war. And the reason? He wants destruction. That's what he does. He kills, steals, and destroys. And the more death, the more suffering, the more destruction, the happier he is. Because those people who die, most of them will be unsaved people. They'll never be saved.
Right.
They can't come back from the grave to get saved. They'll go to their graves lost. And that's all Satan wants to do, is take as many people to the grave as he can who are lost without Jesus Christ. If you understand what this is all about, then it's much easier to figure out what's happening. And we, as the body of Christ, we need to pray and intercede that there is a divine restraint on these madmen and that they are not allowed to carry out their crazy policies and their bloodlust for more war, more fighting, more destruction. That's my hope. That's my desire. I'm not ready to see this world blown up, Doc.
Neither am I. I want to see people come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And Satan will do everything he can to keep from that happening.
That's right. That's about it. We're almost at the end of 2022.
It's hard to believe. Didn't we just start 2020 a few weeks ago? I want my 2 years back. We're almost 3 years now.
It really has gone fast. But I'll be glad to get through this year. I just want to end it and move on, and I got more things to do. Lots of things. I have books I want to write. I have lots of things I want to do for Jesus Christ, and I hope you have projects that you want to do for the kingdom of God. Get excited about the kingdom, you know, don't spend all of your time analyzing Satan's kingdom. Spend most of your time building God's kingdom on earth. And how do we build it? We glorify Jesus Christ. We tell people about the King of Kings, and we invite people to become citizens of the kingdom of God. That's what we should be doing every single day. Hey, we love you very much. We thank you for hanging in there with us all year long. It's been a challenging year. Actually, Doc, if it wasn't for the problems, it was a great year.
That's like saying the ocean would be great if it wasn't for all that water.
Yeah. Honestly, seriously, it has been a good year. I had a lot of problems. You know, if I would have been glad to do without the problems. It was a great year. It wasn't a bad year. It was a great year. It's just there were problems.
Well, Rick, we have problems to solve.
Yes.
So there's plenty of problems. We're going to have problems provide opportunities for us. We don't seek the problems out. They just come naturally, but they do provide opportunities for us. And so never discount a problem.
The thing that I learned more than before is God's grace.
Amen.
His grace is sufficient. Whatever problem you're facing, He has more grace than the problem. And His grace will get you through the problem. Doesn't always make the problem go away, but you will slide through it. Okay? It's a lubricant to get you through the friction of the problem. Okay? So ask for God's grace. Whatever you're facing, God is bigger than the problem you're facing. We love you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
God bless you.